أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Welcome. Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful passage from the Quran, from Sūrah al-Kahf. It's a section that peels back the layers on the very nature of our worldly life, what we call the Dunyā, and it really challenges this illusion we all have that it's permanent.
So right away we need to understand something. This part of the Quran, it isn't just another story that follows the one before it. The source material has this beautiful way of putting it. It's a cosmic interruption. It's like the Quran deliberately hits pause on the narrative. And why? To completely dismantle our most basic assumption, that the world we see around us is some kind of solid, reliable stage for our lives.
And this leads us to the central question these verses force us to confront. And look, this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. It's a deep, personal invitation to reorient our entire way of seeing things. You know, before we can receive deeper knowledge, the Quran asks us to first check the very ground we're standing on. Is it as solid as we think?
So, to help us with this big reorientation, the Quran gives us a direct and incredibly vivid parable. In Ayah 45 of Sūrah al-Kahf, it lays out the example of this worldly life, and it all begins, maybe a little surprisingly, with the gift of water from the sky.
On the surface, the parable is pretty simple. God sends down rain, and the earth's vegetation just flourishes, creating this beautiful, vibrant scene. But here's the catch. This season of life is incredibly brief. The Quran is describing the Dunyā, this near, immediate existence, as something that blooms in a flash, but breaks apart even faster.
And the Quran uses a very specific, very potent word for this transformation, hashim. All that vibrant green life becomes nothing more than dry, crumbled debris that the wind just scatters away. The source material calls this spiritual realism, and that's exactly what it is. The message is so direct. Don't build your heart. Don't pin your hopes. Don't create your identity on something the wind can just carry away.
This leads us to a really crucial contrast in the very next verse. It calls wealth and children a zina, an adornment. They are beautiful, and they're not condemned at all, but they are temporary. So what truly lasts? Al-Baqiyat as-Salihat, the enduring righteous deeds. We're talking about acts of worship, mercy, truthfulness. The verse is crystal clear. These are better in the sight of your Lord for reward, and they are a far better foundation for your hope.
Okay, so we've had the parable of this life. Now the Quran shifts gears. It moves from that metaphor to a vivid, direct depiction of the ultimate reality. We're about to see what happens on the day when all these illusions of permanence are completely shattered.
The Quran uses this simple but incredibly powerful phrase to shift our entire frame of reference. The temporary stage of the Dunyā is about to be removed, revealing everything that was always waiting just beneath the surface.
I mean, just think about it for a second. What's more symbolic of permanence in our world than mountains? They seem so solid, so stable. Yet on that day, even the mountains will be set in motion. The lesson here is absolutely crucial. Nothing is truly unshakable except God. And the earth itself will be laid bare, completely exposed, just as all our hidden deeds will be. And in that moment of total exposure, the guilty will see their record of deeds and just cry out in terror. Can you imagine the shock of finding every single action, every word, big or small, perfectly accounted for and presented right there in front of you? It's a moment of absolute, undeniable clarity.
So, what is it that causes us to live as if that day just isn't coming? The Quran now shifts its focus from those huge cosmic events to the quiet, internal state of the human heart. It diagnoses the root cause of our attachment to this fleeting world, and it calls it heedlessness.
And listen to this stunning definition from the Sufi scholar al-Qushayri. It just perfectly captures the issue. He said, "Heedlessness is not forgetting God. It is remembering everything else first." Wow. You see, this condition, ghafla, isn't about outright atheism or just being forgetful. It's a much more subtle but profound disorder of our priorities. It's all about what or who comes first in our heart.
So here's the crucial point. From a spiritual perspective, being attached to the Dunyā isn't really about owning things. It's about a disordered heart, a heart that gives absolute weight and ultimate importance to a world that is, by its very nature, temporary and unstable. We basically treat a fleeting shadow as if it's the ultimate reality.
And the verses then diagnose the symptoms of this disorder. It starts with arrogance, and the ultimate example is Iblis, who knew the command but refused out of pride. Then it shows up as endless argumentation, or jadal, using debate as a shield to protect ourselves from having to surrender to the truth. And finally, it sinks to mockery, treating divine warnings as a joke, which is really just a defense mechanism to avoid taking them seriously. So if that's the diagnosis, what's the cure?
How do we treat this priority disorder? How do we reorient our hearts? Well, this is where we bring these immense cosmic truths all the way down to earth, to the level of personal, actionable, spiritual practice. This is about cultivating a heart that is truly awake.
But before we even get to a list of practices, the source material asks us to take a moment for some really honest self-reflection. We just heard about those who ignored the reminders, so the question for us is, what is the gentle guidance, the quiet truth, that you keep pushing to the side in your own life?
This beautiful hadith gives us the perfect framework for the cure. It's not a call to withdraw from the world or abandon our responsibilities, not at all. It's about what the commentary calls the non-settlement of the heart. You live here, you engage here, but you don't let your heart build a permanent home here. You remember that you're just journeying through with purpose.
And with that mindset, here are 3 concrete practices to cultivate that state. First, perform one act of good each day without leaving a trace, something done just for God alone. Second, when you feel the grip of this temporary world tightening, recite the dhikr, Ya Baqi, O Everlasting One. And third, practice the quiet remembrance of death, but see it as a return to the source, not as a terrifying erasure.
Let's conclude our reflection by sharing in this beautiful supplication, this munajat from the source material. O everlasting beyond all forms, unfasten our hearts gently. Let us pass through this world awake, neither enslaved nor ungrateful. Amen.
This explainer was compiled with gratitude by Mir Ali Shah, a seeker sharing these reflections through the Living the Wisdom of the Quran podcast. We humbly ask for forgiveness and acceptance for any errors or mispronunciations that may have come through. Thank you so much for joining us.